Oscar.
Here.
Lao Tao.
Here.
Amina Mo.
Here.
Evelyn Kapos. Here. Imani Cowell. Imani. Lydiana.
I'm here.
Alice Varana. Alice Varana. Tate McAllen. And Helen Flowers.
Launch straight to executive board reports.
Okay, so like a lot of people on the executive board, I was in Washington, D.C. from Thursday to Sunday. So that was, I guess, the main order of business that I've been working on. Other than that, just a lot of housekeeping. We'll probably have quite a bit of business coming forward in the next couple of weeks that I'm kind of in the preparing stages on right now. Otherwise, today I have the spending report from our summer fund to report. And then also I'm working on planning the 100 Who Influence, which is going to be next Tuesday night from, I believe, 6 to 8. I'll have to double check that, and I'll talk about it in announcements, but that's all.
Greg is not here, so he's listening.
I was not in Washington, D.C. this weekend, but I'm anxious to hear about everything that happened. I met with the potential commuter committee last night to develop how many members we want, goals that they have, that will be brought forward next GA for approval. My PAC meeting is tonight at 8 in Anderson 315. Everyone and anyone is welcome. However, we're going over student org constitution, so it will be tedious, but it should be fun. And next weekend, or next Tuesday is the 100 Who Influence. I'll have some membership gotten it now. It's very fun. Everyone should go. You know, well, my PAC committee will did not have a meeting next Tuesday or attend it a little later. That's all I have.
Today I sent out an email to all the representatives.
Piper's here.
Oh! So I sent out an email to all the Husc representatives earlier today, asking for see if anyone's interested in being secretary for the committee, so that we can have a record of every swimming that we have on campus. Other than that, I also attended the ASGA conference, and I sent an email to some of the representatives at different universities to see if I can get a copy of their minutes and their constitutions. I'll be able to analyze how other different universities' constitutions work, and also how I can improve or maybe give ideas on the congresses about the minutes. I also sent out an email to the board saying if you needed supplies for the office. Fully Husc office, and I've also posted all the Husc office hours. It's going to be on the main doors, and you want to know who's going to be in the office when. Just check every week, and there should be an updated calendar with the name of who's going to be in the office, how long we're going to have our committee meetings, and things like that. So that is what I did.
Okay, I got a lot of great ideas at ASGA, good fundraising ideas for student orgs, and Greg and I thought of some good ideas to improve economic affairs. Summer contingency has been closed for a little over a week, so you guys will get a spending report for summer contingency later on. Besides that, I've just been trying to catch up on reimbursement stuff since I've been in DC. Just to give some spending updates, the student org total budget has 98% left for the year. The Husc Exec Board has 79% left for the year. For the conference fund, we've allocated about 12%. However, none of that has been spent yet because they haven't gotten the trips yet. Sure. 98.8% left for the student org budget. So like all the student orgs together. Husc Exec Board has 79% left for the year. And the conference fund, we've allocated 12%. With none of that being spent. You can come back to the videos, get something.
The all-art meeting was last Thursday and it was a huge success. Over 45 people attended and most all part orgs attended. So that was great. And we have a new advocacy rep, which is Kumi. So yay for that. I'm still looking for 2 at-large representatives and also the reps that are in my committee. Please stay for like 2 minutes after after GA so we can set up a time to meet this week. So don't leave. Yeah. Also, I did get some software nominations for at-large positions, and I'll be contacting them, see if they're interested. Okay, that's all.
Okay, what's the last name?
NGO.
Okay, for BER reports, we have our first BER meeting this upcoming Thursday at 8:30 p.m. in Anderson 3rd floor. There will be an email sent out tonight before 12 o'clock midnight reminding everyone as to where the meeting is and when the meeting is, so you kind of have an idea as like you put in your calendar whatsoever if you do not remember right now. I would also say look over the bylaws and constitutions to see what your duties and responsibilities are for the different representative positions, because some of you have a little bit different things that you have to do. Also, I met with the RHA Executive Board last night to go over representative duties and responsibilities also. There were some inconsistencies, so we're going to be meeting with Melissa to see what we can be able to do so that we can be able to uphold the responsibilities of each chair. That way someone's not doing less or more than another person. We've also had an application turned in for junior representative as well as for senior representatives. And as Jenny already said, we already have an advocacy rep now. We're still looking for 2 at-large reps. So if you can, post it on your Facebook wall or whatever the social media websites that you have for representative positions. Tell your constituents, friends, classmates, whoever, tell them to apply. We're still missing a Soren representative as well as a Manor representative. So you can also encourage your junior friends and senior friends to still apply because it's still open to everyone. So those are all my reports for right now.
I also was at the ASGA conference, so I have a lot of ideas running around in my head. Hopefully, once my committee decides on our time, we'll be able to go over some of those. So just a big shout out to the PRC committee members. Day after GA today, we'll discuss in person and finally figure out just when works for us to meet. So that's probably my biggest announcement.
I was at ASGA as well. You'll get my 2 cents when we talk about it later in the meeting. But first, ITSAC, the Informational Technology Services Advisory Committee, met for the first time this past week, last week actually. And it was a very broad meeting. We didn't really go over anything specific. We were just talking about setting specific goals for what the committee is going to be doing throughout the whole year. Anytime that something comes up that should go out to the student body, I'll let you guys know right away. Second of all, representatives. I sent out an email asking for specific information just about you and a picture as well. Respond to those emails as quickly as possible because I don't want to put only a couple of the reps' information at one time. I'd like to do them all at once. I only got responses from 5 of you. If you never sent a picture of yourself to me, that means you didn't see the email and you didn't send me an email. So please do so I can get those. And third, I've begun discussing the creation of a Hamline application, an app in the Android market and the Apple Store with IT. So nothing's happened yet. I just begun discussions with it of creating a really cool app for students.
Okay, I'm going to be doing the Economic Affairs Chair report since Greg's not here. So last time we met, we approved 2 conference funds. One was the Anthro Society going to the American Anthro Association in Chicago. We approved $3,036, and they're sending 8 people. The other one is University Christian Fellowship. They applied to go to cross training, which is in Alexandria. They have 10 attendees, and we approved $1,440. So that totals to $4,476 for the conference fund so far. and we have a EA meeting tonight at 9.
Wendy is not here today.
You know, I just want to, maybe since Wendy's not here, if any of you have a thought about it, please think about thanking student activities and leadership and the programming board for all the stuff that happened last week at homecoming. There's an awful lot of work that goes into making the lip sync and the dance and everything else, and those people. It's probably why Wendy isn't here. We're probably on a day off because of all the time that it took us with it. But think about thanking those folks for that whole weekend. It was a big success, I think, on most of those events. So I just want to say that. Just a couple things is that we are in the process of putting together the bookstore advisory committee, of which has the ability to put in, I think, 3 people on this committee. I talked to Lucas about this. I think we have one commitment, are looking for a CLA and a business representative from the student body. What's important about this committee is that they will be looking at the evaluation of the first year seminar textbook rental program, determining whether we're going to repeat that program again in the future or even expand it to the second year. So this committee has some important work to do, and I need to make sure that we have student voice on this committee, because last year we didn't do very well about having students in attendance. And secondly, the media board is also, the media board exists on campus as a separate organization that funds our media organizations like the newspaper, the Fulcrum, and the radio station. There are 3 at-large memberships available as well, so you cannot be on the executive board here at Husc and be on that board, but if anybody else is interested, I'd be happy to talk with you. We meet on a monthly basis, review the organizations that are involved in media, and set their budget for the year. So opportunities for involvement, if you're interested, let Lucas or the exec board or myself know about your interests.
Could you send an email to me basically all those committees and requirements you need and how many you need? Because all I have right now is just legal, so you need 3 reps, one from the business and 1 for CLA. And what would you like the third to be?
Well, there's 2 CLAs in business, but I have 1 CLA person. I think I talked to Lucas, so.
And the media board?
The media board, they don't have to be, they just need to be an undergraduate.
We don't appoint that. So. Right? It's just whoever's interested in doing it.
Or we can split it from the other board?
Yeah.
There's no unfinished business. Let's go straight to new business. Lucas, you'd like to come up and report on some of the business guy.
Yeah, Steven's gonna help me out if you don't mind. Okay, so this was something Alyssa pointed out that didn't happen last year, but is required in the bylaws that the president, in this case the president and the treasurer, give a report on the money that we spent over the summer out of our summer contingency fund. And the reason for that is because the summer contingency fund is sort of like a discretionary fund that's basically at the disposal of the executive board and doesn't require a GA vote. So this is sort of like the check and balance of like reporting it to GA so that there's transparency involved. So on this, whoops. I don't know if I used the plan. Okay, so I won't use the, but anyway, everything on this list is all that we spent this summer, and then the total is in the bottom right. So everything in green are promotional or PR related expenses that we chose to use our summer fund out of because basically when we sat down over the summer with Rachel and talked about what some of our plans were, and we had some pretty high aspirations for what we wanted to accomplish in terms of marketing. And so we decided that it would be best to take a lot of those expenses out of the summer contingency fund so that that would free up Rachel's budget to be used throughout the rest of the year. So that's what a lot of those costs are. Then obviously we just were in Washington DC over the weekend. Our plane flight came out of the summer contingency fund, does for 8 people. And then this in blue summer retreat lunch was over the summer when we had our executive board training. We went to a restaurant out in Como and they had like a conference room in the basement where we did all of our training. And then we had lunch. And then in red is for the game room grand opening and the Husc barbecue. We chose to use the summer contingency fund for that also because this was part of the budget that, because as a lot of you maybe know, last year when I was proposing a budget, I cut the Husc budget by $10,000. So we didn't have a lot of extra money to spend, so we took some of that over our rollover from last year, which is where the summer contingency comes from. And so overall, Stephen, do you have what the starting balance was?
It was about 16, so we have around 7.
Yeah, so we spent around 9 out of the 16,000 that was in that fund. If anyone has any questions about this.
Why is Hamline catering so expensive and like half of what you paid for the entire fund?
I can go into that a little bit. Last year, I think on the barbecue they spent around $2,000.
Okay.
And they had, I think, planned on having like 150 people there.
Mm-hmm.
This year we thought, we're going to do a better job than last year. We're going to do a better job of getting the word out there for this event, things like that. And so we thought maybe we'll get 200 people to show up, where last year they got 150.
Yeah.
It ended up, the event started at 11:30. By I think 11:45 or close to 12, we had already had 200 people come.
Yeah.
And it ended up being over 300 people who came to the event. And so I had talked to the catering manager while the event was happening, and they were running out of food, and he told me, like, either we're going to have to tell people they have to, like, that there's no more food and they have to leave, or we're going to have to start making more food. So we originally estimated to spend like $2,000 to $2,500 on this, but because the event was such a success and so many people showed up, we decided just to allow them to continue cooking food so that everyone would be able to eat. But yeah, it turned out to be pretty expensive.
Okay.
Majority of that 4174 too, I was looking at the invoice because I just got it, was it was about 300 hamburgers at $11 a person. So yeah.
We're doing pizza. Okay.
But the other thing, and I know Dean Super talked about this last week, is that you have to remember when you buy from Hamline Catering that money is going directly back to Hamline in turn, like less money that needs to be put toward tuition. So in a way, it's contributing back to our community. So
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily a waste of money in any sense.
Just to tag onto this, let me just say, $11 probably isn't for the hamburger. It probably was per person for like whatever else we had on the line. But any of you who plan to work with catering, I would advise you that when you get a bid from them and it seems high to you, to argue is probably not the right word, but negotiate with them about how you might want to, how they can lower that cost. I mean, I do that all the time.
Okay.
So it's something I think you need to think about how you cater with anybody or how you work with any kind of vendor. It's not to always take their first price. But I had another question, and because I'm really pleased that you presented this, because I don't ever remember seeing this being presented, even if it is in bylaw before. But are there guidelines or criteria by which guide you to what can be expended from this fund and not?
It's pretty much unrestricted. It just says that whatever we spend has to be in the best interest of the student body, which I take to mean that we're not wasting money on frivolous things for ourselves. And even though some of these things were like directly towards Husc, I see it as sort of a human capital type of expense, or for example, like promotional items and things like that. It's improving the image of Husc, which in turn I think is good for the student body.
I just thought maybe because it was labeled summer contingency that the time period by which this money could be used was only in the summer.
Oh, I thought you meant in terms of what we can spend it on. No, it expires, it starts at the end of the school year after 30th. So anything we wanted to spend out of here had to be dated on the invoice before September 30th. And for example, the homecoming t-shirts were, there. The homecoming t-shirts, the fourth one down there, that was at the last year. I don't know if people remembered, and like we were sort of in a rush to get that approved because it was our last day that we could use that fund. But the main purpose for it to exist is that during the summer there is no GA, so there's no way to sort of allocate funds yet. There's still some problems that come up and things that need to be dealt with, so it allows us to accomplish some things during the summer.
And the extra $5,000 just go to next summer contingency fund, or where
It'll stay in there, and then at the end of the year, whatever all the other funds that are left unspent, it'll all get rolled over to next year. And summer contingency is one of the rollover funds, so out of all the rollover, it'll get a certain percentage of it for next year.
So this all comes out of money that wasn't spent last year, or that wasn't spent the year before, or the year before. Some of these have kind of been building up year after year, which isn't necessarily a good thing, because that money could be being put to use. Does anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, we'll move on. All right. Thank you.
So as many of the executive board members have obviously alluded to, we are all at conferences last week over the course of 4 days. We spent it all in Washington, D.C. And the purpose of essentially what the ASGA is, essentially it's a national association of colleges, colleges, student governments, and basically all come in and discuss things that are relevant and useful to each of our organizations. There are several roundtables, lots of discussions that happened, a lot of really good ideas came out of it. And so for today's discussion, I thought it'd be best if we kind of went about for a little bit so you could hear some of the ideas that have come out of the ASGA conference. And a lot of this will be led by individual executive board members for ideas that they came by. I don't know if anyone would like to start.
I can just say something in general. One thing I noticed at the treasurer roundtables is that we're one of the only schools that doesn't require our student orgs to fundraise. A lot of the other schools that I talk to, they will approve a budget. For example, one of the schools said we will give you 70% of what you approve for, and to get the other 30%, you have to fundraise that amount. I think the 30% was a little bit high for some of our orgs, but maybe we could do like 10% or something. I don't know, I just thought it was a really good idea to have the student orgs fundraise some of their own money.
And adding on to that, I meant at Syracuse University, only 20% of the funds goes towards student orgs, which I thought was very, very loud.
Yeah, ours is about, I think it's around 50%.
I can talk for a little bit. Some of the things I noticed, or I guess in my going to the different workshops and seminars, there were some that were specifically for certain positions, and like I went to some of them that was just presidents at it and stuff like that. So we got to talk about issues specifically facing us, and so I got kind of a better idea of kind of becoming a better leader and like how to create a better team and stuff like that. But some of the other things for me was just really ways that we can improve ourselves internally, because one of the things that I've talked about to our executive board this year, one of the things that was also reinforced at the conference, is that no matter what you accomplish in 1 year, if you don't build up a structure so that the future administrations can kind of follow suit, then you're not really accomplishing anything. So some of the things that we can do to improve this is, right now we just have what's called the transition documents, which is basically a letter that each executive board member writes to like the incoming person, giving them sort of like advice on the position, and that's really not enough. I think it's going to be a good idea for us this year to try and create like an operations manual, it would be called, which is just like a more elaborate transition document like for everyone, and then to actually have sort of a day retreat where all of the old executive board, all of the new executive board, all of the old representatives, all of the new representatives come and each can kind of learn from each other. Some of the other things was that I kind of agreed with Stephen. We saw some real differences in how we relate to our student orgs and how other schools do, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job with regard to that. Another thing is that some schools don't have as much control over their funding as we do, and so some schools like have to go to the student activities office or the dean's office or whoever and like get permission every time they want to spend money, which we're in a good position with regard to that. Another thing I noticed talking with different schools is that we were one of the only schools that didn't at least have a student member of the board of trustees who, whether or not, there were very few schools where the student member could actually vote, but I didn't meet any other schools there that didn't at least have someone who was allowed to sit in and like be a non-voting member. So those are some of the things that I noticed. I have some of them that are probably in common with what others learned, so I'll let them talk more.
Great. Well, sorry I came in late, but for me the most important thing about ASGA is that was one workshop that we did. I think it was Stephen, Lucas, and I. That was called From Group to Team, and I don't know if somebody has talked about it. And maybe that's something that we need. That it's worth talking about. I've always said that my committee is more. I want to be more of a team, and I'm nothing without my team. And I think it goes the same way around with my executive board, with our executive board. And well, the workshop taught me a lot, but I think that the most important lesson that I got was that I have a great team, and I was able to bond with all of us, and that's a very important thing to accomplish the goals we want to have and that we want to accomplish. And I realized that Husc is in a really good position. We are a great student congress in comparison to others. I'm not going to mention any, but and I'm pretty sure somebody mentioned it already, but I think that's the most important lesson I got. We are good. There's still yet a lot of things to improve, and complaints and things, suggestions, keep them coming.
One of the things that I noticed is that I went to really good workshop. Basically, how to really reach out to your student body, but also how do you show appreciation to different people on campus. I got a lot of ideas about how to make sure that not only the Husc executive board, but you guys as a GA, how do you get appreciated, how do you know what's going on, and also how do we reach out to the student body to make them feel like they are comfortable enough to coming to talk to us. And it's one of the things that we can work on in the future is making sure that we build that relationship and not make it so formal all the time, but make it so that we're actually going out to the students themselves. One of the benefits of the things I also went to was the secretary roundtable. A lot of information I got was how to organize and how to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. We did a lot of talk about getting information not just from the students, but also from faculty, staff, getting those stuff in the minutes, and also learning the different types of responsibilities that secretaries across the nation have. I do a lot. I also do lessons in other schools. So what I plan to do forward in the future these upcoming weeks is contact me and get ideas, and also review their constitutions to see with different committees, positions that we have. That was one big thing that we all talked about is our executive board and the way our Congress runs is a lot more complex than a lot of other schools, which I think is good, but also just seeing what else can we do.
In the same vein that Vika was talking about in terms of outreach, one of the big things that I think that we're going to be doing, and this is going to be one thing that's going to fall on the shoulders of everyone in this room, is that we're going to be doing surveying. We're going to be surveying a lot to try to break down some of the formal you have to come to us kind of communication and the start improving and go for the we're going to come to you whether you like it or not. So a lot of this is probably not going to happen probably at night or right after the lunch hour, most likely in the Anderson Center. A lot of this is going to be just as simple as coming up to people and saying, I have a 5-minute survey here, would you mind taking it? In addition to that, we will also be trying to engage people in discussions. The idea with this being that we need to know what people think, and even though that we do a really good job at it, so for example, our elections come in at 34% of the campus, where the national average apparently is 4. But we need, there's clearly 100, if not 90%. So that's one of the things that I got out of there. I think it's really important that we start surveying, asking everyone and anyone that we see, not just our own friends, not just the groups that we're aware of, but any of the people just randomly walking through the campus and getting them involved in essentially what is student government.
Okay. So out of the hundreds of people that were there, I was very special in the sense that there aren't technology coordinators everywhere. Most of the universities and colleges we ran into had president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and some of them that was it. That's all they had on their executive board for their student government. We're different in that we have a supreme delegation of responsibility and what we're supposed to be taking care of. I think I met one person who was the head of the technology committee at their school. So I met one person that I could relate to. So it was really hard to get a lot for my position, I got some good ideas, but most of the things that I learned were concerning Student Congress in general. So what, like Miko and Corbin alluded to, is outreach, right? Like going to people, not making them come to us. Us going out there, finding people, building those relationships first, and then talking about Husc, right? Because going up to a person like, hey, do you know about Husc? Oh my gosh, you should vote, you should do this, yada, 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 come to GA, that kind of thing. Instead of doing that, right, just sit down and talk to them, just start a conversation with them. And in that conversation, right, you can start talking about Hamline. And when talking about Hamline, usually people say what they think about it, right? If they have a problem, if there's an issue, if they want to see something, that kind of thing. So, being upfront and, Student Congress, right, I'm on the executive board or I'm a representative or something like that isn't the best thing to do. But building relationships, that's how we get stuff done. That's how we can better ourselves and better our university. And surveys, we're going to be doing a lot of testing with that in the next couple months and the next couple weeks. And that should be, I'm actually very excited for that. Surveying should be a really beneficial method of talking to the student body.
Alex said a lot of different things that I was going to say, but in relation to my position, I really enjoyed the ASGA trip in general. It was a lot of fun to meet new people, meet a bunch of the other different student congresses, see how they operate, how their executive board operates, and different things like that. I didn't necessarily meet anyone that had like the same exact position that I did at the other schools. I know like most of the positions, the position that I met that was most similar to mine was usually like the Speaker of the House, where he or she was in charge of most of the representatives. Like they had to report to him, and then he did most of the reports. That was like a similar thing to what I would say I do here at Hamline, basically. And I guess a couple of ideas that I'm bringing back is in terms of outreach. I talked to a lot of representatives and senators at a couple of other universities to see exactly how they do outreach with their students. And some of them did town hall meetings, some of them met with their student groups in terms of once a month, once a semester, different things like that. So we're going to be adopting a similar system. Although I've already been thinking about it, it was just, I guess, a lot better for the other schools to reaffirm that idea and to see that it was already going on in some schools. And also another different thing that I learned was in some workshops that I went to, one specifically talked about creating a signature program that your student congress can be able to do, that your student congress can be associated with. That way when someone thinks of Husc, they think of this or they think of that. So we'll be exploring those different things that maybe the representatives is supposed to be, not supposed, that we'll be doing basically in terms of getting Husc's name out there and in terms of getting ideas and getting concerns and getting feedback from students. As Kobe mentioned originally, we're going to be doing surveys, but we're also going to be talking a lot more on a personal basis to students, making sure that we're making more of a personal connection rather than more of student government students connection basically. So not that separation, but more of like a fluid conversation back and forth. That way we can be able to get a steady conversation going. And other different things, like Miko said, how to appreciate what students do, both representatives and also students in the community. Although we are student government, we're supposed to be the voice of the students of Hamline, basically. So one thing that I was thinking about doing, not me personally, but we talked about it during the retreat, was more of recognizing representatives as well as recognizing students outside of us. Because we're representing them, we should be talking about what's going on in the community, what students are doing, what the students are accomplishing, different things like that. That way, students in Hamline can be able to know what, I guess, their classmates and their peer groups are doing. And that was what I took out of the conference, basically. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Oh,
I don't know what else I can add. I mean, you guys pretty much hit everything. I'm like kind of smiling and proud, like, I learned so much. Like a lot of it is basically reiterating what people have already said, really making those connections on campus. More of a, less of a, like, at least from my standpoint, marketing to students, but more of building relationships with and getting people to kind of see that we're approachable and friendly, we don't bite, and that we want to really just help better campus. And all of these are different ideas we're going to try implementing to do that, to get a better connection with students on campus so we can really actually represent their voice and not just our own. Not just be our own talking heads, but kind of, and so these surveys, this getting to know people, these things that we're talking about are ways in which we're hoping we can do that. There are means for that we've learned from this conference, as well as just getting so many contacts from people all over the United States, figuring out what they're doing well, what we're doing well, ways we can improve, and just, it's been a really eye-opening experience. Getting to go was a really good opportunity to meet with, and even learning kind of along the same lines as Alex, that there aren't very many PR chairs, but there was an entire presentation about how those more fully evolved, like student congress or student government boards should really look into a PR chair, because having that communication person takes a lot of stress off of other people's positions. So there isn't that, well, who's going to publicize that? Who's going to talk to people? That, that's my job, that's what I'm here for. So the fact that my position exists is really nice for our board, that stuff can be thrown at me so people can do their jobs. And I'm the one thinking about, okay, how can we publicize that? How can I get the word out? Things like that. So, yeah, it was a really good experience.
And I guess one other thing that I forgot was, after talking to a bunch of the other student congress, I realized that most of them only have representatives of only class reps and maybe one or two hall representatives, and that was pretty much it. Whereas for us, we have representatives from basically most areas on campus, if not all areas, so we're already doing a good job in terms of making sure that we have a representation from all over campus. That way, we can be able to easily do outreach and be able to reach students' voices as quickly as possible. So,
Are there any questions about the ASGA conference? Anything else anyone would like to add? Cool. Unless anyone has any other discussion points for today, we'll move straight into announcements.
If you missed the Tim Wise event that happened on the 1st, there is a showing of his speech at 7 p.m. right here.
Any other announcements?
I double checked, and yes, the On How to Influence dinner is next Tuesday from 6 to 8.
Anything else? Alex?
Well, there's a drag show this Friday, 8 o'clock. It's a price and throw it on event for first years who are interested. But I went last year. It was actually my first drag show, and it was actually really enjoyable. So
Really?
yeah, really awesome.
Where do I bring suggestions from my class?
I'm sorry?
Here? Or, like, if a student comes up to me and says, oh, do I bring it to Jeremiah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you could, okay. That's it.
What time is the tomorrow?
7.
Also wanted to make an announcement for promotion night, which is, I guess, our African night here, hosted by Husc, which is a Hamline Undergraduate Student Association. It's on the 18th of next week. So,
It's from 6 to 10.
Yep.
The Asian Pacific American Coalition is having a horror movie night on Wednesday the 16th from 4:15 to whenever the movie's over. Then we'll have a discussion. We'll be watching Carved, the Slipknot Woman. There will be ramen and fixings, and it is in Drew 118 Science.
I have one more actually. This is actually one that I'm very passionate about, and that's happening. So Beta Chi Fraternity on the night of Halloween is having a massive philanthropy event. It is called Trick or Treating. Basically what's going to and there's going to be food, we're going to be making costumes. One of the themes, we're still debating what we want to do. If we want to do like pirates and ninjas and cowboys or something like that. But basically what's going to end up happening is we're going to have teams of like 5 or 6 people going out to different parts of the community, up in Roseville, up north of here, some in the Midway area, and then down to the Grand and Summit areas, and just getting tons of food, tons of canned food to donate to the Hancock Food Shelter. And all this information will be available soon. There's going to be a Facebook event, and there should be a lot of posters everywhere, but I just kind of want to get the word out about it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really amazing philanthropy event, and we're going to get other student organizations to help out with it, and it should be really enjoyable.
I have a question about that. What time, like, is that going on?
It's going to be the night of Halloween, so that's on a Thursday.
Yep.
So the night of Halloween, probably in the evening.
Okay.
I'm not gonna
7
trick
or
or
8.
treat.
Are you guys like marketing it anywhere in the community so that people know to like?
Yes,
have
yeah, and
things?
yep, that's happening. And this is literally, I think I'm the first person to announce it to people outside of the people who are organizing it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, night, 9 o'clock, 302, Anderson. At Hamline University.
On Earth.
55104.
7. All opposed?